The learning target is I can find the theoretical probability of a simple event. So we have a bunch of vocabulary to start with. Probability is the ratio. This is important, a ratio of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. So remember, a ratio can be written in three different ways. A ratio can be written as 3 to 5, 3 over 5, or 3 to 5. So when we have probability, we need a ratio, which means we need the part over the total, which we'll get into next. But when we say what is the probability, you're never going to say the probability is 3. It's not going to be just one number. It's a ratio. We're comparing two things. So we have a trial or event, which is a single run of an experiment. And we have the outcome, which is the possible result. So a trial or event could be that we're going to flip a coin. And the outcome would be that it landed on tails when we flipped that coin. The probability of an event is the favorable or the desired, what we wanted to happen, over the total. We are comparing what we want to happen over the total. And we have the likelihood of an event. We're not going to get into this so much today, but it's a good scale. So 0%, we would call it impossible. As likely or not would be a 50% chance. And certain would be a 100% chance. And then in between this, we have unlikely. So anything that's like 0.1 to maybe about 40% is unlikely to happen. 40 to about 60 would be as likely as not. And then 60 to 99.9% would be likely to happen. So if we're looking at 25% would be in here. We would call that unlikely. 45% would be right about here. We can say as likely or as not or equally likely. It's close to 50%. And 80% would be around here, right? Which would be likely. It would likely happen. So it says determine the probability of the spinner landing on an orange space. Well, again, probability is a ratio. We need to find the total. So what we have to do is green landed 11 times, yellow landed 4 times, it landed on blue 7 times, it landed on white 3 times, and it landed on orange 12 times. We have to add these all together to find the total. So 11 plus 4 plus 7 plus 3 plus 12 will give us a total of 37. And then we want it landing on an orange space. So orange is our desired, which means 12 times, over our total, which is 37 times. Now we can use our yellow calculator simplify. You can type in 12 over 37 as a fraction, hit the simp button, S-I-M-P, hit the enter button, and it will simplify it. 12 over 37 is not going to simplify, so we'll keep it as 12 over 37. Could also change it to decimal form by doing 12 divided by 37, which will give us 0.324 repeating. All right, so we wanted to determine the probability of young adults passing their driver's test. Well, 56 passed, 44 failed. How many in total? Well, we got to add them all up. So 56 plus 44 will give us 100. That's our total. Our total goes on bottom. And then we want the young adults passing. So in this case, it's 56. We can do 56 over 100, hit simp, and enter in your calculator. And we can get 14 over 25 as our simplified version. So determine the probability of selecting a yellow marble. Well, we landed on red 10 times. We picked 14 yellow. We picked 6 blue. We need the total. So 10 plus 14 plus 6 gives us 30. 30 is our total. It goes on bottom. Again, we're comparing the desired is a yellow marble, to the total, which is 30. So our yellow marble would be 14. Again, we can put that in our calculator. We can do simp enter. It will give us 7 over 15 as our simplified fraction. Determine the probability of students riding their bike to school. Well, 200 took a car, 330 went on foot, they walked, and 120 took a bike. So we got to add them all up. It's going to be a pretty big number. 200 plus 330 plus 120 will give us 650 students in total. Again, our total goes on bottom for our probability, so I'm going to automatically put it in. And then we want they rode their bike. So bike would be 120 out of 650. So again, we can put this in our calculator, 120 over 650 using the fraction button. You can hit the button simplify, then hit the button enter, and it will simplify it to 12 over 65. Let's see if that simplifies anymore. I think that's our most simplified answer. Yep, that will be our simplified answer. All right, our last question is a state test question. It says, an owner of a small store knows that in the last week, 54 customers paid cash. So I'm going to write 54. I'm going to change it so it looks a little bit like a table. I'm going to write cash, 54. 42 paid with debit. So debit, 42. And 153 paid with credit. So credit, 153. We want the probability, the fraction probability that we'll pay cash. Well, cash is 54, debit is 42, credit is 153. Got to add them all up together. So 54 plus 42 plus 153 will give us 249 as our total. And then we want cash, 54. So the probability would equal 54 over 249. I'm going to change that to to decimal form, which will give me 0.22. And now I'm going to check all my answers. Well, I know 1/3 is 0.33 repeating. I know 1/2 is 0.25. 1/4 is 0.25. 1/2 is 0.5. I'm going to immediately cross this out. It's too high. And I'm going to cross out the 0.33 because it's high compared to 0.25. And now, I don't remember what 1/5 is off the top of my head, so I'm going to do 1 divided by 5, which gives me 0.20. So now 0.22, is it closer to 0.20 or is it closer to 0.25? Well, I'm going to go back. 54 divided by 249 was actually 0.216. I rounded. Let's change it to see if that makes it easier. 0.216, definitely closer to 0.2 than 0.25.